Yo, what's up guys, welcome back to another video. This is going to be a tasty one. I mean, the comments are going to love this. This video is an hour old and I can see it's got a lot of dislikes and, I mean, it's got a lot of likes, but it's got a lot of dislikes for a video that's only an hour long. But it's an interesting topic. I don't even know when the US election is, but it's how the world is preparing for Trump's return. I assume that means Trump's like the stand-up favorite. I don't really know how it works. Again, I feel like elections are like summertime. I mean, in the UK, I feel like we've got elections possibly coming up, but I'm not even sure if that's confirmed or guaranteed yet. And yeah, I guess the US elections are coming up too. And I mean, I just see Joe Biden memes everywhere, and he just seems very old. And this isn't me being ageist, because Trump's not even that much younger, to be fair. He's probably like, what, 5, 6? Let's see. You know what, let's just see. Biden is 80. I'm going to say 82. He's 81. Trump. Oh, he's 4 years younger. That is wild. I mean, Biden seems like he struggles to talk, which probably comes with old age maybe to some people, or he's just aged differently and his speech is just struggling, or he's just very tired. Maybe it's not even his speech, he just seems tired all the time. Trump probably just, you know, uses all kinds of stuff to keep himself awake. I mean, I don't actually know, but I mean, there's definitely a contrast in how they act, which I feel like definitely some people see as a negative, because if you're the president of the US, you probably want to be seen as someone who's just a lot, I guess, not aware, but you seem more aware, you seem more energetic or passionate, or whatever it is. There's probably other things as well that I don't know. I mean, I know Biden's definitely got his stuff that are very strange. I'm laughing. I mean, I don't know actually like how, like, if there's any actual serious allegations, or if it's just him acting strange in videos. I don't really care about politics like that, honestly. I'm just in the middle. I'm not fussed by either, to be honest, because it's just funny to see how all leaders of the world do stuff, because I mean, I say it's funny, it affects our lives, but like, for example, the government in the UK, the Prime Minister here, I just don't care anymore. It's just an absolute mess. You don't really, like, you don't even get to choose half the time, because I mean, I say half the time, recently, like, Sunak came here, you didn't have any control. I think Liz Truss also came here without voting either. So the last two Prime Ministers in the UK have sort of just come in because I think Boris was basically kicked out. I don't know. I don't. It's just funny to see how much of a mess they can make of your country. Although I'm speaking of the UK in this scenario, but the US is probably not struggling as much. But we're gonna see how this video explains everything. Again, I don't know how soon this is, the election, and also who's the favourite and stuff, but I assume it's coming up. But yeah, links also in the description to my Patreon, where you can see reactions that I can't post to YouTube. And let's just check this out.
Donald Trump's recent rhetoric, telling Russia they can do whatever the hell they want to NATO, telling Israel to get the job done, and telling Zelensky he will not give a penny more, the world is watching and waiting for what will happen if he once again gets the keys to the Oval Office. But how will China...
What I think of, like, people, like prime ministers, presidents, whatever you are, leaders of countries, do they really have the final say? Or is it really the parties around them that really decide fully what's going to happen? Like, will Trump have the deciding sort of, or Biden currently, will they have the deciding sort of vote on situations, like world situations? Or is it still based around the party? Because I feel like it's not just them who decide things, they're just sort of the figurehead of it, if that makes sense.
China and the BRICS economies react? Will conflicts in the Middle East and Europe slow or intensify? And crucially, could this be a turning point in Earth's history? America's presidential election is only a few months away. And just as financial markets place bets on future trends, some lawmakers are hedging bets on a new presidency. The election is being framed as a turning point that will have far-reaching consequences for American power projection. Trump's views on politics haven't changed since he left office, but the environment in which he operates has. The world is considerably more dangerous than it was during his first term. Dozens of conflicts are ongoing, great power rivalry is the norm, and the world order is collapsing as we know it. Even though Biden and Trump hold diametrical views on social, legal, political, climate, and financial issues, their approach to foreign policy is not necessarily all that different. Nevertheless, nations across the globe are preparing for the coming of a second Trump presidency. And governments do what governments do. They make contingency plans. Ukraine, Taiwan, and Israel stand to gain or lose the most. Allies will be treated with tariffs, transactional politics will be customary, and hostiles will be dealt with bluntly. Every time, without exception, when the White House undergoes a makeover, U.S. foreign policy discontinues and continues at the same time. Most of the discrepancies between Biden and Trump will be restricted to rhetoric. Then again, words carry the weight of the world. They can end a war or start a revolution.
Skip that. Oh, I can't skip.
Everything is changing. Politics, economics, and above all, technology. One of the pioneers in AI development is InVideo AI.
Oh, he's got an ad for an AI creating channel. An AI video creating site. Okay. Get your money, you'd have to see it.
Transcript, but also a human-like voiceover and relevant visual footage.
Taiwan is the 10th largest trading partner of the year.
Yeah, I've seen many of these videos and they are very obvious that it's definitely not creative. But you know what, get your money, man. I respect it.
Stock footage and human-like voiceovers that would otherwise cost hundreds of dollars every month if you sourced them separately. InVideo sits at the cutting edge of AI development and is perhaps the easiest way to enter the creator economy. Use the link in the description and try it out yourself. The global community has seen better days. Armed conflicts have proliferated, now standing at over 50 according to the Peace Research Institute Oslo, which is the highest level of hostility since 1946. There is conflict in Europe, Africa, the Middle East, and parts of Asia. It gets worse. American involvement or lack thereof is partly to blame, but not in the way you think. In many places, conflicts are raging and diplomatic negotiations have frozen precisely because of America's presidential election. If Trump were to win the 2024 race, he would be inaugurated in January 2025, almost a year from now. That is too short a time for Biden to make binding commitments. As a result, international partners and counterparts have practically suspended diplomatic relations with the United States.
Oh, damn.
In effect, Trump has already undercut Biden's credibility and agency over global events. This then could be considered the first impact Trump has on international politics, and he isn't even in office yet. Should Trump get elected, his second presidency would be different from the first because the world is more hostile than before. Across the board, Trump has proposed a universal tariff, which would tear apart the existing international trade regime by unilaterally taxing all imports to the United States. Even so, some actually look forward to Trump's return. Netanyahu, Orban, Modi, and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman can expect a warm reception in the Oval Office and likewise less criticism on civil liberties. Trump pays respect to venerable political traditions like personal relationships and one-on-one negotiations. That said, there are guardrails in place that restrain sudden dramatic change. For example, during his first term in office, Trump and many of his senior members and allies in Capitol Hill held traditional policy views. But when Trump expressed drastic considerations, those same allies often persuaded him to stick to the conventional way of doing things. That is what played out in places like Syria, Afghanistan, and so on. So, regardless of who runs the executive office, the machine that is the civil service will always restrain the worst impulses. Should the torch pass to Trump, most of America's allies in Europe can expect unsentimental treatment. Trump openly sees them as freeloaders, and frankly, they are. But that's the price one pays for being a superpower. At large, NATO's European members have a vast, latent power potential. They have a larger workforce, manpower pool, and a combined economy that is about 10 times larger than Russia's. Some of the European powerhouses also have sophisticated arms industries capable of producing outstanding weapons. NATO's European members also spend 3 times more on defense than Russia does every year. Taken together, Europe has more than...
That is crazy to see. The GDP of Russia. God damn, compared to European countries, it's crazy how low their GDP really is. But then the power they have, obviously we see what's happening in Ukraine. Maybe they're not as powerful as once thought. But that is wild to see their GDP. Again, obviously the Soviet Union, the USSR, or whatever, it would have been a lot higher, but damn. Makes you realise maybe they've not got anywhere near as much power as you think.
Defense than Russia does every year. Taken together, Europe has more than enough latent power to deter or even defeat Russia. Trump wants to tap into that massive potential. However, the Europeans do not see eye to eye when it comes to security. As a result, NATO is unable to mount a sustainable European defense policy. For the Baltics, Russia is an imminent danger. For Spain or Italy, illegal migration is the main threat, while Russia is merely a distant problem. It takes a lot of diplomatic persuasion to get Spain to help Latvia, and so the Europeans tend to fall back on Uncle Sam for defense. Still worse, in Trump's view, many of the European states run a trade imbalance with America or spend too little on their armed forces. These are arguments that Trump frequently brought up during his first presidency and is likely to do so again. The scrutiny could get uncomfortable. Many of America's allies spend less than 2% of GDP on defense. That's going to raise some eyebrows from Trump, especially since the Ukrainian war is still going strong. Speaking at a campaign rally, Trump said that, as president, he would let Russia do whatever the hell they want to any member of NATO that didn't meet the defense spending requirement.
Damn. If they're not hitting the requirements, that's fair. I'm not going to say this is fair enough, but that's a crazy statement to say. But if there's requirements that aren't being hit, then you're sort of just like... Well, you're not really... I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. I can't remember the word. You're just not really following the rules of NATO, really. It's a crazy way to put it, though. God damn.
Admittedly, some countries have turned things around. Poland has placed massive orders for tanks, jets, and missiles worth billions of dollars. Turkey is setting up factories in Texas to boost the production of critical munition stockpiles, particularly
But why are they doing them in Texas? Why not in Turkey?
155mm artillery shells. Meanwhile, Germany has created a €100 billion special military fund to reform and recalibrate its capabilities. These strategic decisions will likely be used as a pitch when the Allies negotiate with Trump. However, these are exceptions. Most of Europe just can't seem to get its act together. Defense spending is mostly an afterthought, nothing more. If Trump follows through on his warning and America abandons allies that pay too little, it will harm the credibility of Article 5 for collective defense. In turn, that would undermine the existence of NATO altogether. Either way, NATO members who have done too little will feel the pressure. At worst, Trump could try to take the United States out of NATO, though such a move would face enormous resistance from civil servants in the foreign and defense policy establishment. All the same, while many nations are holding their breath in suspense, none are more anxious than Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. These are the conflict zones where America has pooled military resources and has taken on political commitments. In Ukraine, the situation could not be more critical. The Biden administration has been all in on Ukraine since the war started. Recently, however, fighting on the ground has frozen in trench warfare. Ukraine is especially short on ammunition. The European Union has recently approved 50 billion euros in support for Ukraine, but the war effort hinges primarily on America. From a purely quantifiable point of view, American support for Ukraine is a terrific deal.
Aid sent to the Ukraine by the US. Total 77 billion pretty much in dollars. 23 billion weapons and equipment, 4 billion grants, loans, 18 billion security assistance, 26 billion financial, 3.9 humanitarian. I just realised this is covering the screens. It wasn't really covering anything really, to be fair. Yeah, it's a lot.
America spends less than a tenth of its annual defense budget on Ukraine, and in return, Russia's military, economy, and industries are severely weakened at no cost to American lives. Plus, most of the money spent on armaments for the Ukrainian army remains on US soil. Trump, however, may not necessarily see it that way. He has pointed out numerous times that military and financial support to Ukraine is a drain on American resources, and he frequently boasts that he could solve the conflict within 24 hours.
Jesus.
Trump hasn't clarified his precise policy, but if he wins the election...
I can't fully remember, does Trump get on with Putin? Or did he get on with Russia? How did that work? How was their relationship? I can't really fully remember. I just remember all the rumours that Russia, what was it, sort of basically hacked whatever and then got him voted. I don't know. I think it's all just rumours. I don't actually know how true it is, but so I think in that sense they probably get on somewhat.
America could very well abandon the fight and coerce the Ukrainians to strike a peace deal with their Russian counterparts. The best case for Ukraine would be Trump agreeing to extend support, but with something in return. For example, financial aid to Ukraine could be granted in the form of loans. At the same time, military assistance could be extended by securing exclusive licenses for American firms to extract strategic minerals from Ukrainian soil. Ukraine happens to be rich in all sorts of minerals, and Trump would want to maximize capital return for America in whatever shape or form. To be fair, abandoning Ukraine is something Biden could do just as well in his second term. Since 2023, the fickle of fortune has turned against Ukraine. Russia has adapted to the new configurations of warfare, and the US Defense Department doesn't believe that Ukraine can win the war.
Oh, damn.
However, Biden, being a political veteran, cannot admit this prior to the elections, since doing so would hurt his Ukraine policy up until now. If Biden wins, he could do the same thing Trump would do.
But if he does that, isn't that a bit... I mean, politicians probably do this stuff all the time, but your whole sort of rhetoric or whatever is you're going to support Ukraine, and as soon as you get elected, you're like, nope, see you later. But I guess politicians do this kind of stuff. That's just politics, right? They'll lie to try and get the victory for themselves, pretty much.
Negotiate an end to the hostilities and pressure the Ukrainians to move towards a realistic settlement. The endgame would see a deal that is closer to Russian interests than that of Ukrainian. So Trump and Biden have essentially the same outlook for Ukraine. It's just that the nuances are different. Further south, in the Middle East, American policy has been nothing but a train wreck. During his first presidency, Trump had abandoned the nuclear deal that had capped Iran's nuclear program. He then moved the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem and closed the U.S. Consular Office for Palestinian issues in Washington. Trump's peace plan for Israel and Palestine rejected the two-state solution. Instead, the Abraham Accords were signed, which established diplomatic relations between Israel and several Arab states. The Abraham Accords, however, did little to address the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Biden inherited this situation, but he also made it worse. He waited too long to rejoin the nuclear deal with Iran, and since the 2021 election, Iran has been under the rule of hardliners. As a result, returning to the nuclear deal is now more remote than before, and Iran is closer to a bomb than ever. Moreover, Biden has treated the Palestinians as much as Trump had. The reopening of the U.S. consulate was delayed, diplomatic peace talks were neglected, and the rise of the most far-right government in Israeli history was ignored. None of Biden's policy-making was distinct from that of Trump. Biden may promise to revive the Israeli-Palestinian peace talks, but the outcome will be no different than America's previous efforts. Trump, meanwhile, cares little about either the Palestinians or the Israelis, but he does understand the power politics and political lobbying within America, and he will act accordingly. Not surprisingly, whether it's Biden or Trump, Israel can look forward to uninterrupted support from America. The only difference is the rhetoric. Netanyahu got along better with Trump, and so a populist flair is likely to capture the headlines. Across the region, Iran's proxy conflicts, including Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, and additional assets in Syria and Iraq, will continue, if not increase, in range and volatility. During his first term, Trump implemented maximum pressure sanctions on Iran and assassinated Soleimani, a key commander who shaped Iran's proxy warfare in the periphery. Trump's previous records show that he is more willing to up the stakes in his dealings with Iran. Unlike Biden, Trump could retaliate with lethal force against Iran should they target U.S. personnel. Meanwhile, in Saudi Arabia with Trump in office, an Israeli-Saudi deal will have better odds of succeeding. Biden banked on the Abraham Accords, and Trump is likely to continue that policy. It helps that Trump holds a favorable opinion of Saudi Crown Prince and de facto ruler Mohammed bin Salman. To seal the deal, Trump could extend security guarantees to the Saudis, as well as a generous batch of weaponry in exchange for Saudi Arabia's normalization with Israel. Broadly speaking, however, Trump would likely step back from the Middle East. His administration would have no interest in providing American security for the region, let alone the world. That means no more U.S. Navy to the rescue when international shipping comes under attack.
Jeez.
Still more, on the other side of the globe, Taiwan...
It makes you realise the importance of the US sort of involvement in those sorts of things. So is that what he says there? Is it like the stuff involving... What was it with the... Was it the flipping, like, the pirates? So, like, recently they were trying to, like... Basically, there's a pirates trying to get into ships in the region, like, near, off the coast of, like, Somalia and stuff. Is that what he's mentioning? Is it just not going to get involved in that sort of stuff now?
That means no more U.S. Navy to the rescue when international shipping comes under attack.
I assume that's the case.
Still more, on the other side of the globe, Taiwan has reservations about Trump's return. During his first tenure, Trump made it clear that he loads freeloaders. Taiwan is one such state. Between January and November 2023, Taiwan ran a trade surplus with America.
Italy are the biggest freeloaders though, god damn.
Accounting for $45 billion. That is a sizable fortune, considering the size of the country. Worse, Taiwan is not nearly spending as much as it should on defense. Although it has raised military spending to 2.5% of GDP, that is a trivial sum considering the existential threat that emanates from across the sea. Ergo, Trump may question whether Americans should die for the Taiwanese cause or whether the country is worth bankrolling U.S. defense. Trump's indifference to Taiwan is a fault line that China could exploit, and an all-out war would become more likely. Last year, Taiwan's foreign minister warned that conflict with China was possible as early as 2027, and U.S. officials have said as much a few years back. Meanwhile, on the economic front, no fundamental change is to be expected. During his first term, Trump broke with economic policy and launched a trade war with China. Later, Biden refined that policy and doubled down on it. If Trump returns to the White House, he will simply continue from where he left off. Both Biden and Trump identify China as America's main rival in the race for global supremacy. Trump could, however, intensify economic competition with China and focus on reducing the bilateral trade deficit. He would also look to rectify some critical supply chains so that America is not so reliant on China. In all, Trump is likely to take on a more tough guy attitude, and his rhetoric may target some of America's allies in Asia for their lack of defense spending. With Trump in office, allies such as Japan, South Korea, and the Philippines would have to contend with a more transactional United States. Overall, though, Trump and Biden are more alike than they care to admit. Both need their Asian allies if they are to counter China. Altogether, the world is now more crowded and more hostile than during Trump's first tenure. American power projection and resources must be selectively employed. To defend everything is to defend nothing. Some battle spaces in Africa and Asia might just not be worth fighting for. Even so, Trump cannot completely neglect global issues. Chaos creates opportunities for whoever is able and willing to exploit it. International trade is being rerouted, the flow of oil is being rewired, and alternatives are emerging against the US dollar. The UN is in decline and has become obsolete as a platform for conflict prevention. A Trump presidency will see the continued decline of international law. Everything from trade and climate to human rights will worsen. On the flip side, much of this decay would also happen in Biden's second presidency. These are geopolitical trends that supersede executive powers. And whether the White House puts on blue or red curtains makes no difference. The view will still be the same. I've been your host Shirvan from Caspian.
Damn. Well, there you go. I mean, I assume some people will disagree with this, some people may agree, but bro's getting a sponsorship from the AI literally designed to take his job. Last time I was this early, there was a Capitol Hill raid. The world is considerably more dangerous than it was on his first term. Yeah, I wonder why. Well, there you go. Let's just see how many dislikes this has got now, because it's not been updating.
With Donald Trump.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those videos that people just... It's going to be a touchy subject, right? Because it's world relations, world issues, and all that sort of stuff. But, I mean, there you go. Basically, the end, be all or end all of this, or like the sort of end, the ending sentence. The same stuff's going to happen anyway, which is probably how I'd see it, to be honest. But, I mean, just realistically, Ukraine might just be looking like a lot more than usual. NATO as well. If they're not like trying to freeload, maybe they need some of the countries or most of the countries to pay more, pretty much, because they're not really like spending money on areas that they should be required to spend for the NATO requirements. But let me know your thoughts, and until next time, like, subscribe, and peace.